Hello everyone. Thanks for joining me. We are going to give you a little example of the new forms that are required based off loan officer compensation. This is per Mount West Financial interpretation. Show you where they're located, some of the examples of forms that are acceptable, an example of how to fill out some of the forms, and then if you have any questions, give you the resources and tools where you can go back and get those answered. This should be just about 20-25 minutes, and again, if you have questions afterwards, we'll give you the resources to go and hopefully get those questions answered. I'm going to just go over the new forms that are required per Mount West, which is a borrower attestation, a broker mortgage loan originator attestation, anti-steering disclosure of loan options, broker fee agreement, truth in lending, and good faith estimate. Obviously, the TIL and GFE have been around for a while, but we're just going to kind of briefly go through how those are affected in the change. First of all, the forms that we require are located on our website. If you're not familiar with our website, it's mwfinc.com. After you click on Business Partners on the website, then it'll take you to our next home page for our wholesale channel. Right here, we've added all these forms temporarily. They will eventually go into our forms section, but just so it's easy to get to. Half of these are interactive, so you can click on them, fill out the form, and then go ahead and print. And when you exit out, it will empty out the information, so it'll be ready for the next person. If you have questions, again, feel free to give your account executive a call or one of the disclosure assistants in Mountain West. First one I'm going to go over is the borrower attestation. Basically, again, this is available on our internet on the Mount West Financial webpage. This will also go out with loan documents to your borrower. And basically what it is they're going to click the lender paid or borrower paid options, and they're going to go through and basically say that they've signed that the only fees the borrower is or has paid is either going to the broker or the lender, and these fees will all be disclosed in the closing statement. Essentially, they're saying that there's no other fees they're paying that are not disclosed through closing, and they're either checking that I'm doing the borrower-lender model. The next is a broker MLO attestation, and again, this is available only on our website. So in a transaction, you can take this down and have it completed any time during the transaction. It does not go out with loan documents, but it is available at all the time. You can fill in the information here regarding the loan, the borrower's name. You're going to have this filled out and signed by the broker and the loan officer on this transaction, basically saying that they're either receiving compensation from the lender or the borrower, but not both. Anti-steering disclosure. Now, this again, most of us are familiar that this is a new disclosure required. There's several versions out there. We'll accept any of them that meet the requirements by the Federal Reserve Board. I know Point's got one in there. I believe Encompass does. This is just a blank copy of the form. This is the bottom of it. This is, again, one available on our website that is interactive. You can fill in and print out. This is required as a prior to document because, again, the borrower should have been able to pick this out before they're signing loan documents. I just took the liberty to fill in some basic information here. Down at the bottom, did the consumer or borrower express an interest in a fixed rate option? You're going to hit yes or no. You're going to hit yes in most cases. The loan option with the lowest rate. So this would actually be the lowest rate you have available. You notice the three rates there. You're going to have a description. You're going to put the name in there of where the loan is available at, the lowest interest rate, and not necessarily the lowest fees. Then you're going to have the lowest rate without any prepayment penalties or any other weird options. Typically, that's going to be a little higher than your lowest rate, or it may be the same in some cases. The fees on both these are not really what they're looking at. It's just the lowest rate without any unique attributes on the loan. And then the one with the lowest overall fees, and the overall fees would be points and fees. So, so that's how this form would be filled out. One last thing on there: if they do have express an interest or not an interest in the adjustable rate option, which is at the bottom, you'd click yes or no on there, so that if you click no, then obviously you're not going to fill out the bottom. If you click yes, then you're going to have your options for adjustable rate as well. The mortgage broker fee agreement, is filled out. This form is to be signed by the borrowers and signed by the broker or their representative. It discloses whether the compensation is lender paid or borrower paid and the total amount of compensation. It also says that they've received the other required disclosures. So basically, again, this is interactive on our website, loan number, borrower's name. You are applying for a home in which you have either you will pay the mortgage broker yourself or the lender is going to pay. But again, there's no dual compensation. Pretty straightforward. This is the amount of compensation that's going to be paid. The amount is calculated as a percentage, and I'm going to use 200 basis points for our examples today, or 2% of your estimated loan amount, subject to a minimum. And Mount West currently has a minimum on the wholesale of $1,000 on the minimum and $15,000 on the maximum. Your estimated loan amount is $100,000. If your loan amount changes, $1 obviously will be affected. Then if the lender is paying a portion of that, if the lender is paying for it, you're going to put those fees here also. If the lender, Mount West, is not paying anything, you're going to put 0, and then it's going to tell the borrower, hey, the total amount of cost that you're being charged is $2,000. It's all coming from the lender, so the amount you're paying is 0. In the example where it would be borrower paid, then this would show 0 on the this amount here, and then they'd tell the borrower that you're having to pay for the $2,000. Either way, the cost of loan's $2,000. Either the lender's paying it or they're not, and if the lender's not, you are. Pretty straightforward stuff. At the bottom, we also go through and say that this is not a lock-in agreement and that you've also received a GFE and the rest of the disclosures that are required in affiliation with being charged fees on the transaction. I'm going to do a quick example of a GFE and a TIL because really truth in lending is what this what this affects, but obviously we know we also have a RESPA disclosure out there that's supposed to work hand in hand. I'm just going to go through some basics of it with one example. We also do have examples on our website under the original loan officer comp training that goes through 5 examples of a GFE, one with rebate, one with a cost, and one with a par amount. And if you want to go back through and listen to that, that might be also helpful. The TIL is a form that is required to be provided to the borrower by us, the creditor, not the broker. It's a 2-page disclosure that includes an itemization of amount financed. It discloses other attributes of the loan, such as cost, payments. It is where we provide the client the true cost of financing. This is shown in dollars paid, monthly payments, as well as an APR. It is also designed to give a breakdown of fees that the borrower will pay to us and other parties. In order for the GFE to populate correctly, we also have to debit and credit for your compensation. And I'm going to go through a little example. So the GFE does change slightly, but it's really only box 1 and 2 that change, and we'll go through how that's affected. There's also many combinations that I could run through, but I'm going to do a simple example, and I'm going to use Calyx Point because I know many of you use that as the origination system. So we're going to look at some of their boxes and where they're populated. This is a loan that I just pulled out. It's a sales price of $230,000. The important part here is the loan amount, though. It's $67,020. Interest rate of 5.5%. The broker comp plan for our example today is 200 basis points. So everything's going to be predicated off that. If you have a broker comp plan of 1 3/4 or 2 1/4 or 2 1/2 or 300, that's what you would be putting on your disclosures. I'm just using 200 as an example. And also the example we're using is the cost to the credit to the borrower. On this case, this is a 1 3/4 rebate. Now that includes your compensation as well. So this is what the borrower is going to get for rebate on this loan to be applied towards other closing costs. And I'm going to show Mount West Financial normal lender fees is $895 in this example. So first of all, fees charged on this loan are $895 coming from us. Lender paid broker fee, that's that 200 basis points or 2%. And based off the loan amount of $67,020, it's $1,340. And rebate listed, now this would be in max, we call it data track internally. So, but in block 1, all you're really worried about is 2 things. One, what is the lender paid compensation fees to the brokerage? In this case, it's 2%. So it would be 200 basis points times if this loan amount were larger, smaller, that would go up or down. If your 200 basis points was 250 or 300, then obviously that would be higher than this. But typically all you're going to show in block 1 is the lender paid broker fee and the amount of fees charged by the lender. If you're doing a borrower paid transaction, then you would show, then it would go back to how it typically shows with what fees you're being charged, what you're charging in your processing and whatnot. So in this example, this is just block 1 in point. So what we're going to do then is go back to block 2. Now, the interesting part, since the broker paid compensation is 2%, we're showing that in block 1, we're going to now remove it out of block 2. So what you'll have in block 2, like I'd mentioned, this is a 3/4 rebate, and that's what we're going to show. The borrower's getting 1 3/4. That's their rebate or credit on this loan. But also we're going to give back that 2% broker comp plan. So you had 2% in the top under block 1, and now you're going to take that 2%, or you're going to improve the pricing by 2% in block 2. We're going to add those two together, and it's going to come up to 2513.25 will show the credit in block 2. So again, when we look at the GFE, we're going to show block 1, which is that original amount plus Mount West 895. Then we're going to show the credit of those that 2%. The 2%'s in here, and it's credited back here, and then the 1 3/4. So the adjusted amount of credit to your consumer will be $277.85. That's taken in consideration the 2% here, the 2% here. 895 was added here, and then we had 1 3/4 points to credit it here. So let's kind of look at it again in numbers. Block 1 consists of 1340 plus the 895, which gives it 2235.40. Block 2 consists of 3.75, which was the rebate of 1 3/4 plus the 200 basis points. You add those two together, it comes up to your 2513. When you subtract the 2513 from this, you still have an additional credit left over of 277.85. So again, block 1 is going to show your lender paid compensation. Then in block 2, you're going to subtract that or improve the pricing by that same amount. If this is $2,000, this needs to be $2,000. Then what also is going to be included in block 1 is any fees. In a lender paid comp model, it's just going to be Mount West financial fees. In a borrower paid comp model, it would be just like it's always been. Then you're going to show the actual pricing. So in this case, if there were a cost to the borrower, you would offset that cost by the 200 basis points in here. Either way, you're always going to improve the pricing by the same amount of lender or broker lender paid compensation here. You're going to offset the pricing here with it. This is a 5.5% loan. I just wanted to show you that the TIL basically just shows 5.622 because all that's really included or added back onto the 5.5% note rate is Mount West Financial 895 plus per diem interest. And I'll show you that in a second. So this is a sample fee worksheet out of Point. Basically, this is your settlement charges, and we're not going to spend time on that today because that really hasn't changed from what it's been in the past. But origination charges, we're going to show Mount West getting their $895, lender paid broker fee to Hartsog brokerage. Now this again ends up in box 1, these two added together. Box 2, then you have the 2% comp plan being added back out, and the actual rebate of 1 3/4, which ends up being $1172.85. Then you have the rest of your normal fees as stated in the past. And again, you can look back on this if you want, or give a call to any of our technicians, and they'll go through it with you. Itemization amount finance, you know this is part of TIL. Page 2 breaks it down. Basically, this is what's included in your APR, which remember the 2% that's being paid to the broker from the lender is considered lender paid comp plan, not included in here. So all that affects your APR is the $895 from Mount West and the per diem charge. Down here, we're going to show lender paid broker fee. Then it's going to show as a credit. So these two offset each other, and the borrower is going to get only 1 3/4 rebate is what's going to show that's going to affect on their GFE and the rest of the APR fees. So that's really it in a nutshell. It's really not so difficult disclosure-wise. Just know that once you put the disclosures out, you don't get to change them. We've already talked about making sure the GFE, you know, if you do anything on that, over-disclose, because again, it still gives you a little flexibility because you can never add anything. You got two different regulations here. You have TIL on one and RESP on the other, and they don't necessarily play well together. We're here for any questions as we work through this loan officer compensation. You know, it appears like it's here to stay. So we all have to get as good at it as humanly possible. And if you have any questions, feel free to call your account exec. And we have our phone number here, the 793-1500, is available. These folks are here all day long working on disclosures, and they're here to answer any questions they can and help you work through things. If you're not sure, absolutely give us a call. Look forward to a great year. We're going to have a few challenges, but I know we'll get through them. Thanks for listening.